Welcome visitors to our FKC channel, and today I have again with me Rick Boland from Manor Youth Project, and today we have a very specific function to talk about the Manor Youth Project Tao of Grassroots Mentorship, because a lot of people have asked what is it about youth mentorship, and it's so powerful and so important. I've invited Rick back on for this particular book review so that we can give people the right information. So Rick, tell us a little bit about yourself again in short, and what the book is about, the resource.
Hey Fred, how you doing?
I'm doing
Hey
good.
Listeners. Yes, so the Tao of Grassroots Mentorship is really, I call it an ebook, but I'd also call it a community resource manual as well, whether that's the local community, the global community, the online community. It can really be utilized, and I've written it in a way that can be utilized by anyone at any level in the community, whether they're a CEO of an organization, or just someone at a community center, or just someone who's had a few ideas about how to help young people in their community, but to sort of get lost in how to do it. So that's what it's really all about. And the Tao is it's a Chinese philosophy of basically translates in English to the way. That's really the way of grassroots mentorship.
Cool. I know I started out with a lot of youth work when I was living in Geelong, and also with Springvale areas and Dandenong. I worked with homeless street kids for 7 years, and worked with youth development, and I put a lot of time and effort in it. I had some amazing results and I had some amazing challenges. And what I find is that when I met you, Rick, your passion to lead younger people towards avoiding pitfalls, developing characters, strength, tenacity, and hope for the future. Can you tell us about the character strengths and traits and things that lead people in those directions, especially the youth?
So I sort of discovered a while back when I first started making, founding Manor and coming up with those frameworks, and sort of talking to the young people in the community about what they want and what they don't want. And I think that's a really good narrative to talk with the young people in the community, because a lot of the decisions get made for them and not by them. I think it's changing now in that whole landscape. But the young people simply said in return to me, we're just sick of the script. There's one young dude in particular is like, we're just sick of the script, man. We get told what to do at home, and then we go to like the youth clubs and youth groups, and we get directed what to do there, and there's no real free range to improvise in our own lives. So I discovered that there were so many young people that I worked with that just weren't aware of the potential and the strengths that lie within them, their strengths and their values. They've got a compass. We've all got a compass inside us, but it's going everywhere, and it's not really pointing towards those major directions we need to step up and take. And I feel like knowing those strengths, knowing our values, knowing our morals, and having a purpose is what it's all about. And that is the answer, or the antithesis to a lot of existential crisis and depression and anxiety in young people.
Well, I think from what I've got from having lengthy conversations with you, especially about these things, was for a young person to really develop and manifest their awareness, a sense of self. Because once an individual, especially a young person, has a really good defined sense of self, of what's important to them, they're not just following the leader or running around looking for direction. They're seeking direction from within their own values, from within their own discoveries, within their own beliefs, and therefore they're living their own lives rather than conformance to processes. Like there's a lot of government organisations and support groups that really try to batch process youth through paperwork and through discipline and through submission. And it must
a lot of passing the buck.
destroying. Must be soul destroying. And I think the exciting thing I find from Manna and reading your book, From Grassroots Mentorship, is creating the rites of passage, creating the self-discoveries, creating areas where people, young people, discover things about themselves, opportunities, and realise they've got control over their own life and they're not just a victim of circumstance. So tell me a little bit about the navigational process and navigating.
So, going back to that analogy of the compass, I find when they are in tune and they start to realize and come to terms and really awaken to their purpose in life or their mission, that becomes like their true north, you know. And I've replaced the traditional, you know, north, east, south, west directions and you know, everything in between with the core concepts of what Mana Youth Project is all about, which is, you know, up in this corner up here. And that's in the manifesting of that awareness, finding a mentor or a guide to sort of get you on that path or back on track. And then comes in the navigation. So we're using the tools that we've learned through the mentorship and through everyday life as well, to navigate life, navigate relationships, navigate school work, study, whatever they choose to do in life, wherever they're utilizing those strengths. We basically just need to tune that compass, and we get better and better at it. And, you know, every now and then something happens and it'll swivel around, but when we refocus, you know, it points north again. And, you know, the last one, authenticity, is really bringing all of that together and developing a unique, what I call an everyday life code, a philosophy, so that we can walk the walk. And so our life becomes our message. And it's congruent with what we say and what we do and every action we take. And it becomes this keen sword that we can cut through any self-doubt or anxiety in our life, and bravely walk, you know, on that path towards greatness.
That's awesome, Rick, because I know we talked about rites of passage from Indigenous cultures and things like that last time we spoke. And I was thinking, I was doing some study in a particular treatise called the Talmud, a Jewish Talmud. It's an ancient scroll. And basically one of the precepts in there is find a teacher. And what is a teacher or a master or a guide? It's somebody who's walked the road before you to show you where the potholes are and to show you how to avoid some of the pitfalls of life. Now, obviously falling in pitfalls and getting out of them is good for us in some sort of way, but some of them are highly unnecessary. And I know that a lot of us have some sort of checkered past. And in that checkered past, we think, oh my God, I hope no one wanders down this corridor or street because it's not good. So I know that with your program, you talk about the moral compass and character strengths. And I also noticed the positive belief system and the everyday life code and the purpose. Can you tell me in an encapsulating way how you would interface with young people in some of your programs, because they stem from the book and the book is a resource. Perhaps you could just give us a really good overview of what a youth person would expect to receive from you and engaging with you for your coaching and your mentorship. Yeah, just tell us what that's about.
Yeah, sure. So My programs and when I work with young people, the first point of call for every new mentorship is simply getting comfortable with getting to know your mentor, because there's so many, and it echoes what I said about what those young people said about getting given a script. So a lot of the time, young people don't really get to choose their youth workers. They don't get to choose their mentors. And even, a bit philosophically, they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. But I kind of want to cut that journey in half, because we could be waiting our whole lives or half our lives for the right mentor to come along. And we may be looking so hard in the wrong direction that we miss what's right in front of us,
That's profound, because in my work where I do counselling, many times I heard the people say, well, we've been to so many psychiatrists and psychologists and, counsellors and coaches, what makes you any different? And, look, they're quite cynical towards
it's like a test, isn't it, for you?
And I just say to them, this is left field. I'm not going to put you through some convoluted process that doesn't work. That's why you're here, because they didn't work. Let's have an open conversation about things that are real. And it shocks the hell out of them sometimes. And they go, my God, you are different. And I say, well, I'm not that different. But basically, I'm here to get present to you and listen to your story and respond to that, rather than you listen to mine. Because I think a lot of counselling, coaching and mentoring is projection. And I really feel that the answers are inside the individual. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. So one of the major things I say to a new mentee is, I'll put in as much effort as you put in, because it takes two to tango. And I think a lot of complacency and apathy is born from being run through that ringer of, whether it's psychotherapy or any of the major youth organisations. Inconsistency as well. So that a lot of the young people I've met are kind of at the end of that, and so are the families. They've been with these other youth organisations, and they've told them about their whole story, why they're there, what they're feeling, yada yada, and then 3 months down the track, that psychologist or counsellor has moved on, and then they're left hanging, and then someone else comes along and they've got to do it all over again. And some of the young people have told me, I just don't want to do it again.
I've seen that time and time again with the counselling too, where they're going from pillar to post. Sessions end on the hour with the clock, it's like a shrink session or something. They didn't get their outcome. And then when they pick it up in 2 weeks' time because they had another commitment or they couldn't book for a month or something, they've lost the thread of everything. So my work is not volume. It's very more quality and specific. And I feel with what you do, you're so engaged with your particular clients. You can't take on a lot at once, but you don't want to. That's not the purpose of what you're doing. What you're doing is really trying to build bridges and not walls, as they say. One of the things I say, when you really love yourself, right, the right boundaries come up, but the right walls come down. So tell us, Rick, a little bit about the book. How can people get hold of it? And secondly, what is its exact purpose, so people reaching for this resource understand its value and what it's for, and therefore it'll land into the right hands? What is the book for, and how do they get hold of it?
So you remember at the start when I said that it's in an ebook format, but I consider it more a community resource manual. And those things exist, but at the time when I was making it, it sort of just popped into my head, community resource manual. The whole thing, the whole point of it was to condense a lot of my frameworks and a lot of my processes into a universal, insight, really. Not telling people what to do. And I'm also not basing any of the resource in educational jargon or, stats and things that are really reserved for the ivory towers of academia and government and all of that nonsense. So the common man can, or woman, can grab it, read it, take whatever they want from it. And if they utilize it and they change lives, or they change their community or themselves even, and it's, a call to action, and they take that call to action, then that's sold itself, really. So the philosophy behind how it's written also plays into how I'm selling it. So the price is initially for professionals and people in the community sector, and youth mentors and people that are doing what I'm doing, and schools as well, schools, parents, whatever, they buy it, and then the money from those digital sales recycles back into the community, into the resource. So then physical copies can be printed and given out at schools, given out to people at community centres. So it really creates this dynamic that the people in these positions are supporting other people in the community to do the same work we're doing. And then more people get impacted that way. And I really feel there's a responsibility, not a responsibility to buy my resource. I'm not speaking it that way, but a responsibility for these people who can and are doing things to support those who may want to. And it also, because it's very grassroots, and that's in the title, and that's what I'm all about, is, they want to do it without all the red tape. They want to make impact and change and help young people without having to jump through all the fiery hoops that, council and all of that throw up. Because I know that gets away a lot of people's ambition and inspiration, and really extinguishes that fire when they go, I've got a really good idea how I can help young people, or how I can help this community project. And then they go to apply for funding, or funding is a part of it. And I don't really cover that in my book much. But they get into it and then it just extinguishes, because they're like, oh my God, I've got to do this, and I've got to have this qualification, and I've got to fill out all these forms, and but really at the end of the day, if you've got an idea and it's going to help people, you'll find a way to do it without having to jump through all those hoops, because we're not circus dogs. We are compassionate, driven people in our community who want to make a difference. And we need a resource or resources to be able to find direction to do that.
Well, the interesting thing is, if somebody really, this strikes a chord with you and you want to learn more about Manor Youth Project and the work that Rick does, you can find Rick at manoryouthproject.com.au. Is that correct? manoryouthproject.com.au?
No AU, just manoryouthproject.com.
Oh, just .com, manoryouthproject.com. Or Rick can be contacted and booked through our website as well, FKChealth. .com.au, and I encourage
on the website there is a resources page there that has a couple of free resources as well as my ebook. One of those resources is a project plan template for young people or whoever in the community, and they can download it and do their own version of it, just use it as a template. And it sort of guides you through the steps it takes to plan out a community project and to see it come to fruition. And then you may want to take it further and read the ebook and the resource manual to really open up those things in that template.
Well, I know one thing that is exciting, along with many other things, but the fact that you are helping young people establish vision and hope and involvement and feeling connected and coming out of isolation. I mean, we can accuse COVID for isolation, but there's been a lot of isolation through electronic social media and things like that. And I think one of the major things is that the youth of today are the future, our future, and I'm still very passionate, and that's one of the reasons why I've spent the time I have with you. I got a lot of return from helping you has helped me, because I'm looking at now backwards from 68 years of age, or 67 and a half, or whatever it is, but seeing it from your perspective and understanding the trials and tribulations, because I help a lot of young people with their businesses. I don't know why they gravitate to me and I gravitate to them, but I think with a lot of young people, they're more open. They may know and they don't need my advice or wisdom or whatever, but they're never rude, and they take it on board and they look at it and they match it with what they've got. And sometimes out of a conversation of instruction comes a hybrid solution that neither of us ever saw before. So I just think that Manor Youth Project, Rick, he's a wonderful resource. And I think Rick is very open to have initial conversations with people. He's not a money-driven person. He's a focus-driven person for outcomes. And if the fit's right for you, I can highly recommend him for youth mentoring. And inside of that youth mentoring, of course, is counselling and coaching. That's why we've bridged the three together, because they're blurred lines. I mean, often you're going to give somebody structure and coach them towards a goal, or you're going to counsel them and give them some insights to make better decisions. And then the mentorship is a whole another thing of where you see in someone a bit of a prodigy, or somebody where talents are in there and they need to come out. In fact, that's what I saw in you, Rick, when I first met you. You know, I saw a lot of bottled up talent in there that just needed to get out into the world, and it certainly is happening.
Well,
so,
Manor Youth Project's mission was very much inspired by our mentorship over the years. And I mean, I've got the tagline there, build bridges, not walls, but our mission is walking beside young people as they regain authorship over their own lives. And I think that's a really important point. When, riffing off what you said about, counselling and coaching and how the mentoring comes into that, it's not a person directly telling you or showing you the way and giving you a map with an X on it, to mark the spot of where you need to go. We just walk beside and as mentors, we step off that track and then we step back on when you're ready again. And I know that's been what it's like with me and you over the years. We could go months, even a year without chatting to each other. And then we come back and it's like nothing's changed. And you give me a few nuggets of wisdom and I take that and I go, all right, where can I go with this? And then an evolution happens from those little conversations. And I really dig that aspect of mentoring, because there was a quote, I can't remember who said it. It was something along the lines of, a man truly understands life when he knows that the seeds he plants, he may never stand under the shade of the trees that grow from that, and I love that. I love that quote because it really reflects mentorship. You may never see that person again and they may go off and do great things and you may never know, and there's a mystery in that I really riff with, and I dig that.
Well, it's incredible, Rick, because I've had my dark moments, where you feel, what's it all for? And, I did a lot of overseas philanthropy and all different sort of charitable work, and I walked with a lot of people. But hey, I'm at the age I am, some of these people have re-shown up in my life 5, 10, 15, 20 years later. And they've more than repaid me. Not that they came with a checkbook or wanted to give me money, but they've repaid me because of their own success. They've repaid me because the small little inputs I put into their life, they've taken them out and utilised those insights, and they're changing the world in their own way. So that's the exciting part for me, is to see. It's sort of like starting a self-perpetuating motor. You know, you prime these people, and sometimes the energy goes out and they don't get up again. But other times, you don't know, that little buzz is whirring in the background, and then one day, oh my God, they're spinning under their own momentum. They've gained momentum. Other people and other influencers have geared them up, and they've become real dynamos in their own right. And please forgive me for saying this, but I feel that you're one of these people, Rick. You've done so much in your own strength, that that you've submitted to a lot of study to be authentic in this journey. You've
I've hit those dark spots as well, eh?
Yeah, I know.
Nobody's immune.
Yeah, but
it's what you do with them that counts, you know.
And now I would say a lot of the feedback you give me and about structuring our new business together and what we're doing is reverse mentorship, because the age doesn't matter. I'm getting insights and wisdom from you, and I think this is what people need to really glean, to be open and listen, because when you're open, you may get an insight or a bit of wisdom that you can't use in that specific moment. But if you put it on the shelf, it may become useful later. And I know just this week, the amount of work you put back onto me to raise our standards and game, it's phenomenal. I just don't have enough hours in the day to implement them all at once, but we'll get there. So,
and then another turn of that cog is then doing this dance with you and working together on this new venture that we're doing that's going to skyrocket us into more purpose, is it lights a fire under me again. So all those years ago you lit a fire under me, and then the reverse mentorship happens and I light a fire with you, and then soon enough we're all just dancing around the same fire. Right? And it's popping and crackling and going off, and we just keep adding more logs, and that fire just burns out of control in the most positive way it possibly can.
Well, what I'm finding exciting, Rick, is the synergy that we have now. Others are coming on board. We've made quite a few interviews in a short spate of time, and I've got another one this afternoon, and I think I've got 3 or 4 more in pipes lined up with really unique, special people that want to come on board and synergize. They've got their own shows to run and their own wheelbarrows to push, but each one of these people are just powerful, positive people giving to life. So I've created this platform for all of us. Well, I think it's really great. We've come to our time, and we've jammed for a while, and I think people have got a really good sense of what you do from this conversation. And of course, they can seek you out at manayouthproject.com.
Yeah,
right.
And I really want to encourage people and parents and carers and young people themselves. That range of youth work that I personally work with is between the ages of 12 and 25, and there's so much space in between those two age groups. I really encourage people that if you're looking for direction, if you're looking for a purpose, if you're feeling any kind of apathy towards life, or even because during COVID as well, COVID lockdowns really made us put a slump on things this year. Get in contact and visit the FKC website and make a booking. And that initial consultation is what I mentioned before. Is it's getting to know you, it's getting to know me, and I look forward to speaking to parents on Zoom and then eventually in person when everything gets turned back on, and seeing what we can do for you or for the young person in your life. Because I know from personal experience that when we're just sort of kicking rocks along the road, and we're always looking down to see where those rocks are going, we miss all the opportunity in front of us, and that's a really sad thing, especially when we're younger.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add, to have a conversation with Rick or myself, an initial conversation, it's a free jam to find out if we're the right fit for you. And I not only put it out there for Rick for 12 to 25, but anybody of any age who has interests in these areas and connection with children that they're struggling with, like their children are not coping at school or in their social scenes. Feel free to talk to us and hit either of us up on those conversations, because youth problems do stem from adult problems in a lot of cases, and that's something that I emphasise. You know, if your parenting needs improvement, there are other agencies and organisations and resources we can tap you into that will help you in that area as well, so you can be supportive and on the support team for your child. So that's another angle on avenue that I put forward.
And I always say as well when I talk to parents, because I mean I've met my fair share of parents that you know, they've taken that brave step of meeting up and organising a meeting with me, but you know, and I'm completely honest and with them, and I say, look, I know you may be thinking, gee, I'm coming to this guy to teach my kids stuff that I should be teaching them. And I always say, that's not what it's all about. No one's saying or questioning your parenting. And I always encourage them the idea that coming to external help, coming to a mentor, you know, or coming and speaking to me to invest in your young people in your life is such a strong, brave thing to do as a parent, because I know that those feelings arise, and sometimes stuff happens, and sometimes the care of the young people in our lives sort of slips by the wayside, because life is crazy, and we've got to work and we've got to do all these other responsibilities, but there's no shame or anything in seeking out a mentor.
One of the seeds that I go out of my way to implant when I work with young people is to say that my father, he lived till 97. He was a very pleasant and serene man. And one of the desires, one of the desires I had was, as I said at his funeral, to be at least half the man he was, but I'd like to be more than that. But the example was, he was never angry, resentful, regretful, or bitter. And I would like to say to young people, look at the mature and older generation and choose some role models there of what you're aspiring to in your old age, because that's the compass. I don't want to be angry or bitter or resentful or regretful in my senior years. I'm not now, and I don't intend to take that on. I have things go wrong with people, with myself, with life, but I don't carry acid. And I think the hard part for youth is when they're buffeted and frustrated and really set back, that they can set up some metronomes of real sadness and angst in their lives that tick tock right through their life. And I think when you can identify what's happened to you, what's been going on and what's held you back, but recontextualize those things into learnings and move past them. So I really encourage youth to seek out some role models of people who have overcome the challenges and difficulties that you face, and then learn the recipes and the methodologies to turn those things into an advantage and springboard off them into better things. Because I know someone recently, one of my mentors, I still have mentors myself, and I turned out mentoring this guy, and as it always turns out, they end up mentoring me. But he said to me, I've got it written down over here, I said, I can believe more successful in my future than I ever was before. And he said, if you don't really embrace that belief as a true belief from your core, you're wasting your time. You have to believe you can do things better. Now, what that has meant, I have to let go a lot of childish things and that things are out of my reach. But there's still a lot of youthful things in there that are being rebirthed and embraced. So I thought in this little snapshot I've just spoken that maybe the young people can see, well, I want to have that energy. I want to have hope. I can see grandma and grandpa sitting in the chair and just watching bingo, or, you know, they're lifting the spoon to the mouth and the walking frame. But then there's people like Freddie and other people out there, they go, my God, the guy's still kicking it. He's still smashing it. Let's get out there and make the right decisions now, so we're not pulled up at 40, 50 with all these roadblocks. What's your thoughts on that? And
then we pass those things on to our kids, and it just keeps going in this savage circle. I really dig what you're saying, Fred, as usual.
And I think what you're doing and saying too, because I can see, you know, being in the public eye and talking and presenting, it's difficult. It's a learned skill and it takes time and practice. But when I see you face to face with your people that you work with the youth, I can see the empathy, the compassion, the wisdom, the thoughtfulness that goes into that. And more than anything else, I can see the results, because I know you've changed lives and you'll continue to do so. So that's what's important.
And we have a good time with it as well. I mean, it's not all introspection and depth and diving into caves and all of that sort of stuff. It's not always serious. Most of the times it's a check-in. And I think a lot of the other, you know, really deep content that you tackle in their mentorship, it all happens passively. And there's periods of really digging deep into it. And there's other times where you just meet up and all those things take a back seat, and you are just there to listen and have a laugh and just see. That's why I never do my work in an office. I always do it at a beach or a cafe when we're able to, because there's never nothing going on, and, you know, the whole world's out there to see. We just need to step outside of our comfort zones, as
it's very
discomforting as that seems sometimes.
It's very cool that we both have this passion to get people out into nature and go for beach walks and bush walks and mountains and things like that, because while they're moving their physiology around, they're anchoring into their neurology some of these ideas and processes, and they're cathartically working things out as they walk and breathe and huff and puff. So it's the same with using, you know, you see in art therapy and narrative therapy, which I do a lot of in my work too. Their minds, you know, on what they're doing, whether it's writing in a journal or doing a bit of art or something, they passively are just loose enough to start talking to you about stuff they maybe have withheld from other people. That's why journaling is a massive part of my mentorship. And at the start of every mentorship, I give a young person a blank journal and they go, what do I do with this, man? You know, I don't know what to write in it. And it's like, just fill it with whatever you want, poetry, art. Sometimes you get a little gold nugget and they'll do that, and they'll write poetry and they'll give you a poem that they've written for you. And that's like, you know, I've got a little box and it's got a couple of notes in there, and a piece of framed artwork that one of my mentees has done for me. That's really special. That's better than, you know, the qualification hanging on my wall, you know? Yeah.
And yeah, it's like nature. You're getting out in nature, and then same with the art. They're writing and they're like, I don't know what to write. I'm not good at this, blah, blah, blah. And they get caught up in their head, but they've not really ever been given permission or the right tools to be so free that they can just write whatever they want, in that free writing, in that loose writing, where they're just letting it all come out. And then by doing that passively, they come to these really golden realizations that surprise them. And they always think that there's nothing going on in their life. But when they come back next week, we start to chat about it and they start to unfold all these things. And then at the end of the session, sometimes they're like, oh yeah, and this major event happened And you're like, what? Why didn't you tell me? You know, we could have been chatting about that. And they're like, oh, I didn't realize until we started going through the motions. And they're the cool moments. They're the really impactful moments, I think.
Wow, Rick, thank you so much for your input today. I'm really
Thanks,
pleased
Fred.
that we set aside this time, and listeners, I hope you can really dig into some of these concepts and ideas that we want to give the youth expression, voice, purpose, vision, passion, a good, healthy grasp for life. So we'll wrap it up here, Rick, and any last comments, or are you good?
No, I think we've had a good jam, and likewise to you. I appreciate the platform and stuff that you're providing, so we can have these discussions, and so we can hopefully reach more people. And I look forward to doing more and more of them, you know, and all the different things we can discuss, because I know we've got a vast library of stuff to talk about, but we've only got so little time. So we just break those up, and they become more focused and more impactful to whoever listens to them, whoever watches it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, mate. Thank you.
No problem, Fred. See you later.